Good morning. I'm Jennifer Firestein, Associate State Director for AARP Michigan. Welcome to AARP's Learn a Latte. This is our monthly speaker series where we bring in experts to talk about a variety of interesting topics, meeting over coffee. Now we've switched to a virtual platform to bring you the same lineup of speakers. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and learn a latte. Throughout the presentation, if you have questions, please ask them in the comments section and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Also, this is being recorded and you will be able to access it again here on the AARP Michigan Facebook page. That way you can watch it again or share it with others. Over the next hour, we're going to share valuable information about downsizing your home. If you feel you've got too much house and want to downsize, we'll give you all the information you need to know. Joining me today are housing experts Bob and Lisa Novosad of Novosad Realty Partners. They are a powerhouse husband and wife team who have been in the real estate business for nearly 2 decades. And they were just recently honored as one of the top power couples in real estate and on the cover of the magazine Real Producers, so they know their business. They will share with you industry knowledge to ensure you get top dollar for your house and time the market right for selling. So Bob and Lisa, thank you for sharing your expertise with our members and guests. I will return on screen at the end of the presentation to ask the questions live that our viewers post. So thank you, Bob and Lisa, and you can take it away.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, Jen. Well, welcome everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Lisa Novosad, and this is my husband, Bob. We are the broker and owners of Novosad Realty Partners, and we're here today to not tell you a bedtime story and hopefully not put you to sleep, but to share knowledge and expertise on downsizing and what the climate looks like for real estate right now. As I mentioned, we are the husband and wife partners behind Novosad Realty Partners. We have over 30 years of experience and we have seen it all. We just started our own boutique brokerage last summer, and which has allowed us to better serve our clients and focus on relationships and also serve the local community. We also just received our senior real estate specialist designation, which can allow us to better serve that demographic as well.
And what we'd like to convey with you today are some generational trends that are occurring and we all should be aware of. And some of the biggest are that by 2030, over 37% of the population will be age 50 or older, including us, baby boomers. Will be 65 or older. And if you go further back down, the leading edge of the Gen X generation, those born between 1965 and 79, will also begin reaching age 65. What that means as a composite is that our nation's housing, 55% of it will be owner occupied and will be owned by people ages 50 years or plus. And of that group, 1 in 5 buyers between ages of 53 and 62 will wind up buying a multi-generational home. And what that means, they're going to have either parents still with them, elderly parents, or they may have some of their children too. It's called the silver tsunami for what is going to be coming in the next, say, 15-year period. Almost a quarter of the nation's housing is expected to turn over by the year 2037 and hit the market. And large retirement communities, Arizona, Indianapolis, the Carolinas, are going to see an extreme glut of housing handed down by baby boomers during that period. Each year for the next 17 years, you can expect to have about 1 million homes per year being listed and hitting on the market. Because 55% of the homeowners in this country right now are age 50 or over. That's all good and well with the inventory that's coming on the market, but one thing that has a lot of people in real estate and economists worried is that it's not all going to be absorbed. And a big part of that is because baby boomers may not be able to afford the homes that are coming on the market. Baby boomers have trouble with down payment right now. They have trouble saving funds for down payment because they have student loans. And many who live in large urban markets have very expensive housing lifestyles. They've also been the victims of wage stagnation, and the money has less buying power today too.
So as we absorb all of that data, and you are thinking of selling and moving into a smaller home, here are some things to consider. First of all, should you downsize? Not everyone needs to. I mean, we have an emotional attachment to our home, and some of the memories may outweigh the need or the want for something smaller. Go ahead, hire out the yard work and the housework. We also might need room for hobbies, our grandchildren, or perhaps even a home-based business, because remember, the baby boomers are forever young. There are also a lot of options to retrofit your home so that you can age in place. And of course, we have a lot of opportunities for asset strategies for all the equity that you've built up in your home over the years. So you do get ready to downsize. First thing to do is don't rush. Take your time. It's less emotionally wrenching. And start early. Begin the process well before the house is listed. And schedule it room by room, week by week milestones. Ask for help. Family, friends, and members. And then, of course, AARP also has a lot of options and resources for you.
As we meet with sellers during the course of the year, one question that we frequently get from them is, when is the best time of year to sell a property? And what we like to communicate to them is that there really isn't a bad time of year for selling a property because so much depends on your personal situation and goals. But if you look at the numbers that have historically occurred, April through September are the peak selling months during the course of the year, as you can see on this graph. And if you're on the property on the market during that period of time, you're going to have a maximum buyer penetration, and you got the chance for the strongest sale price as well. January, February, and March are the months with less demand, so buyers will have perhaps a little more negotiating room, and the same thing will apply as the last quarter of the year for October, November, and December. The other part that you have to consider when getting ready is what kind of a market are you in right now? Exactly what are current market conditions? This graph will show you that here in West Michigan, generally we're selling about 12,000 homes, and that's all realtors, not just us, obviously, but all realtors. There's about 12,000 homes sold in the course of a 12-month period. If you go back over the last 20, 25 years, that may have dropped to about 9,000 and peaked out at 13,000, but the market is generally active all during that 12-month period. Right now, for the market that we're in, you probably have heard we're in a seller's market, and that is most definitely true. Current inventory across the board is about a 1.6-month supply. It's very, very limited. That does not hold true for all price points and all neighborhoods, but generally we are in a seller's market. It is especially so for homes that are priced $300,000 and under right now. Inventory begins to grow a little as you get to homes 400, 500, and above. Now, what does the impact of inventory have on the pricing of your property? Generally, when you have very, very limited inventory, as we do right now, you can look for close to double-digit appreciation in the value of a home. We've not quite hit that the last few years, but numbers have clipped along at like 7 and 8% per year. That's actually too high because as homes increase in value to that degree, it prices buyers out of the market. And the millennials are very, very definitely feeling that right now. Their money doesn't go as far, and it's harder for them to get into starter housing. A more reasonable rate of growth is 4 or 5 or 6% per year.
So now you've decided that you want to downsize and sell. What do you need to do to get your home ready? Best way to describe it is like detailing your house. Prospective buyers will expect your house to look better than probably they will ever even live in it. And presenting your house will help you also get the best offer. The next step is choosing a realtor. And what are some of the important pieces that you have to look at? So probably one of the key components is you want something with substantial experience. Buying and selling a home is ranked as one of the most stressful experiences in life. So you really want someone in your corner to help you competently problem solve and navigate all the bumps, because there will be bumps. And make sure that you choose someone that is working on your timeline and not theirs.
You've decided to get your property on the market. You've selected a realtor to work with. The next step then is determining the pricing on your home. And one word of caution to give you right here is it's a science and an art to pricing a home. But don't let a realtor buy your listing by giving you a price that the market will bring that is above. You're going to need to do your research. You can't depend just on their recommendation. So it pays to be an informed consumer. How are home values determined? A lot of factors will go into it. Location is a huge component of the value of a property. Square footage is a big component. Condition, layout, curb appeal, amenities that you have with the home are important too, but not necessarily to the point where you may get back all the dollars that you put into your property. One thing that you want to look at when pricing your home is what is happening in your particular area. We like to break out numbers by school district for our sellers. And here's a graph that will show you what properties here in suburban school districts have done in the last 2 years. You can see it's been growth that's gone from a low of say 2.8 up to a 13.1% in Lowell, which has been booming the last 3 years. And every school district will carry a different rate of appreciation, and every school district will have a different price point for an average home in there. So it's good to look at those numbers too to see how you fit into them.
So now your house is on the market and you want to make sure you get maximum exposure. So there are a number of factors that go into marketing your home. We talked about making sure it's presented so it shows its best. Professional photography is key. Studies have shown that people have between 10 and 15 seconds before they get bored online. So those photos have to be done right. You also want to make sure that your house is seen everywhere, especially online, since that is where most people do search for properties. The MLS, or the multiple listing service, is the place that you want to put it for maximum exposure. It's also the site where third-party websites such as Realtor.com, Trulia, and Zillow will pull data for their sites. So your home is now listed and you have an offer. It's not unusual to receive multiple offers in today's climate. You want to make sure that the offer that you look at isn't necessarily the highest offer. For instance, a lower offer may have a higher down payment. They may waive inspections. They may even be willing to make up an appraisal discrepancy. The key is you want it to be a business decision and not an emotional one.
Once you have a contract in place on the property, there are steps that still remain from there. In selecting a buyer, one thing important to look at is who is the buyer represented from on the lending front. Not all lenders are created equal. Not all lenders are perhaps as diligent on the details as other lenders are, and it's extremely important to be comfortable with your buyer's lender. When a contract falls in place, generally you're going to have a 30 to 35, maybe a 40-day period before you get to closing, and a lender must be able to deliver under that time frame. If a lender is unable to deliver within that time frame and you have to ask for an extension on it, some sellers may not be willing to grant it at that point. So it is vitally important to have a lender in the process that can deliver the goods on time. Another component to the process too is the title company. Generally, in this day and age, there are going to be two different title companies involved. The buyer will have their own title. The seller will have their own title company. You are not necessarily going to be in the same room for the closing. On rare occasions, it still does work that way, but most often there are two different locations involved. Title companies are only as good as the lender too, that is for the buyer. Because the lenders have to deliver their packet to the title company in time for the workup. Ideally, a title company can have a closing statement to you 3 days in advance of a closing to review numbers with your realtor and be sure everything is stacking up. But if the packet is late getting to the title company, it may be late getting a closing statement to you for review as well. One other point to let you know too regarding closings is that closings can occur virtually these days too. You don't necessarily have to physically show up for them. If you're out of state, you can be tracked down and closings can be done remotely. And that can include going to a notary in a location out of state, or it can sometimes even be done completely electronically. If you're providing possession on your home at closing to a buyer, keys are generally conveyed at closing after funding has occurred on the loan. But it's not uncommon for sellers to have possession in their homes for a period of time after closing as well.
Okay, well, that's it. Hopefully that was valuable information. Jen, we're going to let you open it up for some questions.
Yeah, thank you. That was very informative. How does this pandemic affect the housing market? Obviously, we're under this pandemic, we're under a lockdown. So how does the current lockdown and just once things are lifted, how is this pandemic going to affect trying to buy and sell a house?
Well, you know, it's interesting, even during the pandemic, when realtors were not allowed to show homes, people were still purchasing homes. They couldn't let the pandemic get in the way of their need to buy or sell a home. So they were buying them sight unseen. Inspections could still take place. Appraisals could still take place because that's considered a banking function. And then closings could still take place because that's considered an insurance function. So it still happened. What we think is going to happen is, unfortunately, some of the home buyers in the service industry, you know, may not be approved for a home. So that will affect some of the demand and that price point. We also are finding a trend possibly where some people will be looking for a larger home so that they can bring in their parents. They may not necessarily want their parents to go into a nursing home. So let's find something bigger. So even though we're talking about downsizing, there might be some upsizing opportunities here as well. Not quite sure what it means in terms of the market and inventory. We've been blessed here in West Michigan where we've got all this growth, charitable giving, and we're on every list that you can think of to draw people here. So our hope is that it doesn't affect us too much, but I think time will tell.
I think, Jen, we'll need to get to toward the end of the year, probably the third to the fourth quarter, before we can see a true impact on pricing and what it's done. Most people are predicting that values will begin to flatten out as we get further into the year.
It's we've been on this trend of prices increasing, and I just wonder if this isn't the black swan, maybe, where the housing market will kind of start to level out a little bit, because it's difficult, especially for millennials, to be able to buy in this market. So historically, what are the trends for the housing market to switch from a buyer's market to a seller's market? What are the trends that you see as far as when we may start to shift to become more of a buyer's market?
As demand begins to slack a little bit, and there can be a lot of reasons why demand will slack. Millennials don't have down payments. There's a lack of inventory. There can be a lot of reasons, but as demand will slack, then the pressure on price increases will alleviate as well. We've been clipping along at pretty steady rates of 7-8% in many districts the last 4 to 5 years, and that can't continue forever. Like I mentioned before, we are hoping to get back to a 3 to 4% annualized growth rate as we go forward.
Okay. One of our viewers has asked, what home improvements could you make to increase the value of your home when you want to sell it?
Kitchens and bathrooms historically have always been one of the key areas, and that you'll get the most value back for that. Paint can go a long way. Make sure the repairs are taken care of. People tune into that. As we mentioned before, the curb appeal. People will see parts and corners in your house that you never even know existed. So get on your hands and knees, look around, bring someone else in and have them look around. And of course, your realtor, that's our job as well, is to see things that you don't and to let you know, here's a project you want to tackle. Don't worry about that one. Because the last thing also you want to do is when you're getting ready to sell your house is start to pour a bunch of money into it that you may not get back.
So it's a little bit of a...
Excuse me.
So it's a little bit of a balance then between not putting too much money into your house, but doing what you can do to get the top dollar for it. So it's a little bit of a fine line. Can you speak to that, Bob?
Yeah, people buy pretty. There's no doubt that the shiny penny will attract the most offers, the best offers, the strongest offers as well. But like you mentioned, you don't want to over improve a property, but you do need to get ready for the market and a buyer's expectation. And that's a pretty house, because that's what they're looking for, and comparing it against other properties on the market, even though, like Lisa said before, they may never keep it that pretty.
So one of our viewers commented that she sold a 5-bedroom, 2-bath Cape Cod last November, and that they downsized to a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, and that it was the best decision ever. Do people ever have regrets when they downsize?
Not often. And you cannot go wrong in buying a condo in West Michigan. If I had a nickel for everyone that said, Lisa, find me a ranch condo, anywhere, I'd be a millionaire. Again, as the demographic of the baby boomers get older and they want the condos, there just aren't enough of them. So 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 10 years ago, I may have pushed against, you need to have a 3-bedroom, but not now. So good for you for making that decision, because they are far and few between. And if you do find one, chances are there's going to be a multiple offer situation on it.
And the benefit of buying the condo is what, as opposed to a house?
Less maintenance is a big part of it. If that's what you're looking for, you'll be within a community where you'll be able to walk and meet additional neighbors. That generally is a big part of it, and you're just really responsible for what is inside your 4 walls too, and that can be really a big relief to people too, where they don't have to worry about what goes on the outside of it.
Many people also, as they start to retire, they may have a second home in Florida. So they want to be able to lock the door and not have to worry about the yard or the roof or the patio or anything along those lines. So that makes them attractive.
And obviously you're agents, but do you recommend selling for sale by owner? What are your thoughts on that? What are the pros and cons of doing it for sale by owner?
In this day and age with limited inventory, as we're working with buyers, and we prefer to work with all of our buyers in a buyer agency capacity, so we are on their side of the table. We definitely tell them to keep their eyes open for sale by owners, properties listed on Zillow and Trulia and a whole myriad of other websites as well, because it's a viable source of inventory to check out. The key when working with an agent is to resist the urge and temptation to knock on that door first and take a look by yourself. Turn over the address and the phone number to your agent so they can make the phone call first and arrange that walkthrough.
And you really are, as an agent, an advocate for that buyer or that seller, because there are obviously a lot of things that could go wrong, I'm sure. So you really work to make sure that, you know, there's no glitches and that nobody is liable. So, you know, I think that there's a tremendous amount of insurance that you're buying when you go with an agent. You know, you may have to pay those fees, but I think the fees are invaluable to preventing yourself from getting into a sticky situation.
And it is the sticky situation where people come back and say, boy, I needed help. When everything goes smoothly, it's fine. But there are places that people can get themselves into trouble during a contract they had no idea that they could have gotten themselves into trouble for.
One of the, if I can throw out, Jen, one of the parts of this business that still keeps both of us fresh after almost 3 decades and 1,300 transactions is that each and every single one is different and presents its own set of circumstances and challenges. And we learn all the time, depending on where our clients take us.
Right. Yeah. So as far as the time of year to buy, I know you mentioned that there's really no bad time to sell, but obviously there's more inventory that pops up in the spring, but then that also means that there are more buyers competing for that. So can you kind of talk to the seasonal changes and when, you know, if it's better to put the house up for sale in the spring or in the fall?
Well, here in West Michigan, because of the weather, historically, spring is the best time. And it doesn't even matter if you have kids or you're retired. I think it's kind of like that spring fever that comes across people. Also, they don't want to try to sell their home in the fall or the winter because now they got to deal with the snow and the weather. And then also you've got the holidays in November and December. And some people can't even manage, understand trying to sell their house while they're trying to handle the holidays. So springtime just seems to be the best. Your yard looks the best. It's spring. And then again, a lot of families figure, you know, I'll get a house under contract. April, May, summer will come. I can take my vacation, and then fall will go back into our routines. Now, it doesn't mean that houses don't sell all year round, especially here in West Michigan. And, you know, we don't want people to think that just because you put your house on the market in November that you're a desperate seller and that you need to get out from underneath it. That's not true. But you will have more people looking at your home if you put it on the market in the spring. And of course, that will hopefully equate to more people who want it and getting you a better price.
Okay. And last question. So how does somebody go about finding a good agent?
That's a good question right there. Since here in West Michigan, there are 3,200 agents and brokers, so you certainly have your pick. One thing to keep in mind with that number of agents, the average agent handles 5 transactions per year, and that's not skilled labor, as my wife loves to say. That is not skilled labor. Look for an agent who is doing this as a full-time business, who is handling 20, 30, 40, 50 or more transactions per year, and do a chemistry test. Interview them and see if you can fit with their style. And the level of expertise will be important too. You know, are they brokers? Have they invested in continuing education? Have they earned an SRES to work with buyers and sellers who are 50 years plus?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Lisa.
And not only from the education standpoint, but also make sure you have somebody that has your back.
Yep.
There are some people that get into the business, they think it's fast and easy money. It's like, oh, well, that wasn't any fun, versus, agents that look at it as their lifetime work. I don't think Bob and I ever realized how rewarding this business could be, and the friendships that we've made and the difference that we've made in some people's lives, when they've had to sell and they didn't want to sell, or we've helped, someone's mom, getting ready to go into a nursing home and knowing how stressful. Those are the things that really fill our soul. And the fact that we can make a living doing this and make a difference, you just can't put a price tag on that.
So with nearly 2 decades of experience, you probably have seen it all. And I would be willing to bet that, this is the biggest transaction that people will ever make in their lives. So I would say that people, don't cut corners on this. Make sure that, you find somebody who, like you said, does this full time, is not moonlighting, doing it as like a side gig, but somebody who really knows the industry and knows their business. So we appreciate you coming on and talking and sharing all this good information. We will have the presentation. We have a link to the presentation that Bob and Lisa gave us so that you can download that if you want to. We also encourage you to go to aarp.org/MI. That is the Michigan AARP research page, and you can get more information there. And AARP, we also published a book called Downsizing the Family Home. And you can purchase this through book retailers. And it is just a step-by-step guide to help you walk through the process of downsizing, the business aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it. So we encourage you to take a peek at that and check out all of the resources on aarp.org/MI. Thank you and have a great day.